Hey, this is Julia Cruz with MLB.com, and you're listening to The Walk-Off with Scott and Adam.
Hello and welcome to the Walk-Off, everybody. I'm Scott Belford, joined as always by the best co-host in the biz, Adam Mack. We are back from Fort McMurray, Alberta. We were at the casino there Wednesday night. It is now Thursday afternoon, so we're laying this down a little early. We just finished talking with Blue Jays reporter and writer for MLB.com, Julia Cruz, and it was a fantastic interview. We talked everything Blue Jays, what's coming up in the season, what's going on with Bo Bichette. We got into the bullpen. We'll get to all of that right away here. We figured rather than laying down a Friday episode, it just made more sense to do this. So for the most part, everything's up to date. However, we don't know what happened in this final game of the Boston game yet. So if in the morning you're like, what the hell? We're just a little ahead of you.
Vladdy hit 7 home runs. How did they not address it?
And they didn't even mention it. So we're going to throw to that right away here. Of course, a big thank you to everyone in the community. A bunch of you sent in some really great listener questions for Julia, so we got to most of those. You can always reach out to us on Twitter at Walk Off Podcast, Instagram, The Walk Off Podcast. You can join our Discord. The link for that is in the show notes. And, of course, a big thank you to everyone in our Patreon throwing us that extra $4 a month to support the channel. Adam's got the names here.
Yeah, patreon.com/walkoffpodcast. Thank you to David, Abraham, Michael, Sarah, John, Simon, Rashid, Joshua, Jeremy, Ian, Dunedin, Bob, John, Wyatt, and Patrick.
Lovely. All right, folks. Well, without further ado, here is Julia Cruz. So excited to be joined by today's guest, Toronto Blue Jays writer and reporter for MLB.com, Julia Cruz. Welcome to the Walk-Off. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys. So happy it finally worked out for me to be here.
100%. We're excited to talk some baseball with you. And by the way, I read your piece. You did. It would have been about a month ago on the Blue Jays Brandon Berry era. And it's so funny with kids that are just being drafted, you just know nothing about them. And you did a really good job of giving some insight into the type of ball player he was, the type of guy he was. So good read. Well done.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's always nice when you get to have that first contact with a new player as a member of the media and sort of see what they're all about. I mean, Barriero made it very clear what kind of person that he was and what kind of ball player he was when he said, I'm looking at all the other teams that passed up on me. You're going to regret this. And so yeah. I sort of had that in mind already when I went in to talk to him as part of his media introduction. And he did not disappoint. Very well-spoken guy, winning mentality, something that the Blue Jays have sort of prioritized recently. And a guy that, you know, his development here has a chance to be a quick one because he is very, very interested in putting in the work and rising through the ranks as fast as possible. So it's a really, really nice connection to make there. And I think the Blue Jays fans specifically will be very pleased with Barriero.
It was an impressive mentality for a kid out of high school.
Yeah, I mean, yes. I think that whenever you have a guy that is on that level of confidence in his stuff, and obviously he still has a lot of development left, you know, we know that he comes with a 4-pitch sort of tool, but he's still working on that breaking ball, still working on that changeup. That's what the minors are about. But when you hear him talk, there's no doubt in his mind that he has what it takes to turn those pitches, all of them, all 4 of them, into elite major league stuff. So, you know, there's not a lot of self-doubt there. Obviously, there is a lot of work to be done.
Oh man, having that sort of confidence would be so great, eh? Just to like believe you're gonna get there.
Yeah, just in life in general, for sure.
Right? Absolutely. So obviously we're gonna talk all things Blue Jays here. We have some listener questions for you, but let's start with your time reporting under the MLB banner. You started just this spring. How's it been going?
Oh, it's been phenomenal. I've been living in Toronto for the past 4 years, and most of my experience in journalism has come in Toronto. For the most part, our newsrooms are sort of small because that's what makes sense in the market that we're in. There is no need to have a large newsroom for the most part. So it's that's kind of what I was used to. I was very much used to just finagling my way into places and into new opportunities, right? And MLB is kind of not that. MLB is a
Yeah.
very large, a very large company with a lot of different departments and moving parts, and you need to make sure that everyone is sort of in the loop. So that has been a big learning curve for me. And at the same time, I have never developed more quickly as a professional than I have in my time with MLB. At the same time, I've had the chance to do things that I thought were, way down the line in my career, such as writing a long form feature on a guy like Gabriel Moreno, right? And actually drive down to
Yeah.
Buffalo, talk to him. That was such a rewarding experience. Overall, it's been just really, really great getting to cover the away teams as well as the Blue Jays and sort of be in different clubhouses, seeing how different teams do things, how to interact with different managers and sort of develop that people skill, if you will, and managing the personalities and all of that. Man, it's been so enriching, and I couldn't really imagine being anywhere else this season. It's been so great.
That is so cool. I love to hear that, especially like the other managers, the opposing clubhouses getting to see. That's very cool. How often, out of curiosity, do work conversations with Keegan Matheson just become a list of the best places to eat in Halifax?
Yeah. So I've never been to Halifax or to Nova Scotia. And we have been planning my visit, Keegan and I, I said I've been here for 4 years. So it's been 4 years that we've been planning. So it's kind of like we have it all mapped out. I think that there's only so much you can prepare yourself for a trip to Halifax, especially if Keegan Matheson is with you
Yeah.
on that trip. But he has nothing but good things to say, and it is definitely a place that's at the very top of the bucket list.
So, Julia, it's actually kind of funny. How different this conversation would have been mapped out had we talked 10 days ago, last Monday, when we were supposed to originally get together. Because let me tell you, everyone just seems to be in a much better mood these days, right? Like the Blue Jays
Yeah.
are now 6 wins in their last 7 games and are looking for the sweep tonight in Boston. Can you remember a more streaky Toronto Blue Jays team or even team? Like, it has been a wild ride this season.
Yeah, that was actually that was my plan all along.
Right, come in on a high.
I just I just ghosted you guys for a little bit. I said, you know what, I don't want to join the podcast until the Blue Jays are on the high. No, I'm obviously kidding. Circumstances beyond our control and all of that, but it is very fortunate, I think, that we're talking now, other than talking 10 days ago, because it's amazing how quickly the vibes can turn, how quickly your luck can turn. Because I think that when you're talking about the last homestand, at points the Blue Jays were very unlucky with the way that some balls bounced, with the way that some pitches were maybe called at the plate. It's obviously deeper than that, but there are so many tiny things that go into a streak or a slump. And the Blue Jays have been on both ends of that spectrum this year for most of the season. I don't think that
Oh,
there have been normal stretches in which you win some and you lose some, right? Um, why that is, I don't know. If I figure out why, I will probably pitch myself as a major league manager and make millions.
there we
But
go.
but you can talk about the volatility of baseball. You can talk about the ebbs and flows, as many players will, right? It's a streaky sport. It's a sport of failure more so than of success, and we know that as fans and as people that are involved in it. But with the Blue Jays, it's kind of supernatural to the level to which that has been true this year. There are no dull moments. It's either, and it's so funny watching all of it unfold on Twitter too,
I
right?
was just gonna say tumultuous times in Blue Jays Twitter. Like,
My goodness. And it's so funny to me that sometimes, you have an off day and you're doing something else, you go and check Twitter, you see what's trending, and it's August 25th say, and Charlie Montoyo is trending, and you're like, oh boy, here we go. What's the take this time, right? And it's just so funny to me how much that has been the intensity of it this year. I honestly can't remember, and I'm curious to hear if you have any comps to what we have experienced with the Blue Jays this year.
No, I was trying to think of it. Like, I've never experienced anything quite like this. Normally there's a little bit more consistency to a season. I mean, obviously, as a baseball fan, you get used to the ups and downs, but this season has been extreme for sure.
Yeah, it's funny. I think we started the year saying things like, "Oh, is this team World Series or bust?" And it's so funny that is how they've been playing the whole year. They either look like a World Series caliber team, a team that can actually go all the way, or they look like a team that is about to miss out on the playoffs altogether.
Yeah, the amount of times that we have talked about either should they, if they don't make the playoffs, in those losing streaks, you start talking about, oh, the what ifs. What if they don't even make the playoffs? Do they got everything? And then you go through these highs where you're like, maybe we keep this team together forever. Like,
we're never going to die.
Yep. That's right. So George Springer has been, since coming off the IL, he's literally been on a tear. Big game player, coming up big. Like, really big this last week. One of the main cogs in the Blue Jays offense now that they've been winning. Do you think this team leaves him at DH the rest of the year? Like, I know he's dealing with the bone chips in his elbow and he's been beat up, and the DH spot's valuable with trying to get Kirk's bat in there, but it seems to be doing the trick. Do you think he plays outfield again this season?
Yeah, in an ideal world, sure, right? But and we know how much the Blue Jays value the flexibility of the DH spot. That has been really a point of highlight this season, to have some sort of flexibility to get guys in like Alejandro Kirk or even Danny Jansen at some points. A guy in your middle infield, say Espinal or Gurriel or whoever needs a day off, even Vladdy at points, right? And we've seen Vladdy get some reps at DH because those guys also need a day off their feet. It's a very, very long and grinding season. That has been something that the Blue Jays have valued. At the same time, if you have a guy with the ability to change the game with one swing of the bat, as is George Springer, and you want to optimize his offense, I would think it's only logical to keep him at DH. I would rather have, if I were the Blue Jays, if I were John Schneider, I would rather have George Springer's production offensively every single day than that flexibility, which comes with some question marks. It's tricky, right? It is. Ideally, we would see him at center field at least a little bit, but I think we also expected or didn't expect George Springer to play center field for the whole season, right? I think that coming in and knowing how injury prone he is, and the fact that he missed more than half of last season, it made sense that you would see a little more time at DH than most. The number one priority has to be keeping him healthy and keeping that bat in the lineup, because since he's come back from the IL, we have seen how much of a difference maker that is. And that 3-2 win against the Red Sox, that's him.
Yeah.
That's George Springer's win, right? That was such a big moment, and he delivered yet again.
That's such a great point. I know that even in his press conference when he came off of the IL and they asked him how he's doing, and his big, like, my big takeaway from it was him being like, I need to grimace less, was pretty much the takeaway. Like, I need to show my emotions of being in pain less. That's how he's managing it. So, yeah.
That's hilarious to me. As someone who grimaces quite a lot, who is known as to be the tiny bit dramatic, don't hold it against me. I get him. I get it. When you're in pain, you have to emote, and we've seen that. We know how cautious the Blue Jays have been when it comes to injuries, not just with Springer, but in general, right? And that takes me back to Alek Manoah getting hit by that comebacker, and the fact that he emoted and then immediately was taken out of the game, and very clearly he didn't want to get taken out of the game. And he's like, man, I was in the heat of the moment. Yes, I felt some pain on my elbow, whatever. And I expressed it, and all of a sudden I'm leaving the game. Sure, it made sense strategically at that point, but he wanted another batter. And then his very next start, he gets hit again by a comebacker. And he immediately becomes stoic and just waves off the dugout like, I'm fine. If emoting is what's getting me in trouble here, forget
it. So let's dig a little deeper into Springer, because I am curious on your thoughts for next season. Obviously, he is a difference maker when he can stay on the field, but that has been easier said than done over the last couple of years. Can you see them trying to push him off that center field position, one of the more demanding positions? Maybe he winds up in right field and DHing even more?
That would make sense. I mean, I don't think anyone is opposed to that at this point, and I wouldn't think that Springer himself would be opposed to that, because he is very much a team first type of guy. He has taken on a leadership role in that clubhouse this year, especially. And he knows how valuable his presence is in any way, shape, or form. That said, would it be great to have him at center field for another season or two? Yes, it would. You have to deal with reality, right? And I think that he said it best when he said, look, we're just going to grind through it here. We're going to get to October. We're going to have better answers then. And that's what spring training is for, right? I don't think we're going to have a perfect assessment of where he is athletically and health-wise until spring training of next year. For now, the Blue Jays will take those big swings and the big moments. And it's kind of a we'll see what happens after this type of deal.
Mm-hmm. It will be interesting to see. Go ahead.
I think a good comparable with the George Springer situation is Bryce Harper in the Phillies there, because just a guy who, for whatever reason, has tough luck when it comes to injuries, right? But he moved to DH earlier this season, played 90% of the first half of the year at DH, and was putting up MVP numbers. He was hitting like 320 and was just crushing the ball before he had the thumb injury and was forced onto the IL. But that's another guy that fits that mold of maybe we just have Bryce Harper at DH for the rest of the season, and I think Springer
and
fits
is that so bad? I mean,
right? Exactly.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So if you're looking at WAR and whatnot, it'll tell you that it's better to have that guy locked in at DH.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're looking at run differentials, win-loss records, all of that, it'll probably show you that it's fine. Sure, it leaves you sort of a defensive hole to fill. I don't think that the Blue Jays are too concerned about that right now. That is why they went ahead and got Whit Merrifield. That is why they claimed Jackie Bradley Jr. There was a notion that this was coming in some form to some degree. So I'm okay with it for now, and very much looking forward to seeing how things shape up in spring training of next year.
Can I just ask one follow-up question then? We have 4 years left with George Springer, correct? Mm-hmm. Let's play the hypothetical game where he is going to play, let's just call it a majority of the time at DH, whatever number we fall on. Does that affect, because given how the Blue Jays value that versatility out of the DH position as far as rest days for other guys, how does that affect their plans long-term with Alejandro Kirk? And does that leave him as the odd man out even more so than he already maybe was?
That is a great point. That's certainly a great point. I think that Kirk has made significant strides as a catcher this year, and we've seen how much better his defense is.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about him, Danny Jansen, and we know that Gabriel Moreno is knocking on the door, he's going to be back sooner rather than later. What do you do with that? Blue Jays have also been known to carry three catchers at several points, but that is when they had the flexibility at DH. And that's what made sense. Mm-hmm. We also know that Kirk is a better hitter when he's not catching so much, because it is a very taxing position to play. So say you get rid of Jansen, say you trade Jansen, or you
sure.
you have some sort of a composition in which Alejandro Kirk is quote unquote an everyday catcher. What is that going to do to his offensive production?
Exactly.
There are so many pieces in this puzzle, and that is it kind of helps you understand why it is that the Blue Jays value the versatility of the DH position so much, because the trickle down effect is pretty unbelievable. And it's something that I guess we could stay here and talk for 4 hours and we would come up with the world domination plan faster than we would what to do with the DH position.
Yeah.
So this has flown under the radar a little bit here, but this Toronto Blue Jays bullpen has been the third best in baseball numbers-wise since July 1st. But there are some roster decisions to be made, and we kind of were just touching on that when you brought up Gabriel Moreno and September 1st coming. There's obviously 2 new spots that can be filled. Several options are calling up Zach Pop, who just got sent down, lefty Matt Gage, Julian Merriweather. What direction do you think this team goes come September 1st for who they're bringing up?
I mean, it is true what they say. You can never have too much pitching, especially when it comes to a potential playoff run, especially when it comes to potentially challenging the Yankees for the pennant. I mean, it is possible, right? At this point, I didn't think it was possible, say 10 days ago when we were supposed to talk. But
yeah, that's right.
But it is certainly possible now, at least on paper. So if that seems to be the main point of concern or the pain point for this team, I would imagine we will see more relievers coming up than anything else. The offense certainly seems to be well equipped enough to handle this stretch of the season right now. That can also change, obviously. I would say Zach Pop is a no-brainer. He was doing relatively well, and Tim Mays is back from the IL, and so it made sense to send him back down, but he is a guy that can be very valuable at points for the Blue Jays. It's a mystery. I would assume that they would prioritize pitching due to just the workload and the amount of ground you have to cover, and the fact that every single game now will be so crucial and every single minute decision will be amplified. When you're talking about those types of games, the more well-rested arms you have, the better off you'll be ostensibly. So you sort of give your starters, say a guy like Jose Barrios, who has been sort of up and down and has certainly bounced back very nicely, but you give him a little bit more freedom to not be so dominant. And if he runs into trouble, say in the 4th inning or the 5th inning, as we have seen in the past, he's dominant for a little bit and then 1 inning is his undoing. Having an extra well-rested arm may be the difference maker between winning a game and losing a game. And we know that in the final stretch, and especially in October, managing that bullpen as well as your starting rotation is one of the biggest keys to making a deep playoff run.
100%. Julie, I'm really curious your thoughts on Trevor Richards, because he seems to be the lightning rod for, I guess, hate almost from a portion of this fan base, who some of them are even calling for him to be DFA'd. But he's been kind of surprisingly good since coming back from the injured list. He's got an ERA at 2.41. He struck out 12 over 9, 18.1 innings pitched. He got one of the best changeups in baseball. He's got lots of swing and miss. Like, he's got 2 years of control. Is the slander warranted? I know he's had some struggles throughout the season, and can you see him actually being DFA'd for one of the guys we were just talking about?
I'm going to make this very quick. No.
I love it. Okay. I love it.
No. Trevor Richards we know how important he was last year. Yes, the Blue Jays missed the playoffs, but he was the guy, right? Or one of the guys out of that bullpen. There's still reason to believe that he can be as dominant as he's been in the past. And I think that his post-IL numbers show exactly that. At times you kind of see that, if the changeup is working, I think that is when he is unhittable. And
It's filthy. Like, I love
it
that
is.
changeup so much. I can't even imagine getting rid of that, especially with how volatile relievers are.
There you go. There you go. And you said it. You said it all. Relievers can be very volatile. So it's natural that you'll see a guy like Trevor Richards at points in the season struggle a little bit, as Adam Timber has, as Demi Garcia has. It's very
My God, look at
interesting.
Josh Hader, and he's the best.
Yeah, don't get me started on Josh Hader. It is very much a matter of, is that changeup working? Is the location there? Is he getting the swings and misses? And if he is, and as it seems that the Blue Jays are starting to click and firing at all cylinders right now, that's a guy you want on the mound, because not only does he have the stuff, he also has a little bit more experience than most guys in that bullpen. He also comes with a little bit more baggage, which can be a very good thing. It can be a very positive thing for the Blue Jays.
A track record's good, for sure.
For sure. I would say patience, which it doesn't go well with the Blue Jays fan base. I've experienced my fair share of Twitter comments to know that it's not easy to ask for that. But honestly, this is a guy that can be an X factor at any given game.
If there is a bigger scapegoat than Trevor Richards, it has to be Yusei Kikuchi. Yusei Kikuchi, which is funny because his name has almost become almost derogatory, right? Like, he's almost in Tyler Chatwood level of like territory of being despised. Is there any hope for the man? Because that last outing out of the pen was pretty disappointing to see. And you got to start to believe, like, how much rope does this guy get to keep his roster spot in 2022? Okay. Yeah. All right. So we're all on the same page here. All right.
It's a fascinating storyline. I'm going to be honest with you guys. When the Blue Jays signed him, I thought it was a good deal. I really did. I thought that the potential was there. I remembered that, his time in Japan, he was an ace. There was a bidding war for Yusei Kikuchi when he came to the States and decided that he wanted to play here. His strikeout numbers are ridiculous. When he is going, it's pretty amazing to see the swing and miss potential, the breaking ball, the fastball, which is just electric. And it can be a little too electric. It can be errant, right? And it's just, if you want the personification of the Blue Jays season, it is Yusei Kikuchi. He's either phenomenal, and you look at him and you're like, holy crap, this is a Cy Young contender, or it's circus music and you have no idea where the ball is going. Is that a mental thing? Is that a mechanical adjustment? I think that there's no way to know right now. The Blue Jays will have to sit down in spring training, and keep in mind that with the shortened spring training, if I'm not mistaken, Kikuchi, it took him a little bit to get there too. So his spring training was even shorter than most. It'll be very beneficial for him as well as for the Blue Jays to have an actual period to sit down, break it down, figure out what it is that's going on. Why is it that he struggles so much the first time through the order, and then go from there? I have not given up on Yusei Kikuchi, and this might be the hottest take I've ever had. I think it would be very not smart to keep him in the starting rotation or have him pitch high leverage innings out of the bullpen. Of course, I think we can all agree on that. But the raw talent is so enticing that, to me, there's got to be something else. There's got to be another gear to this. I don't know.
When he's locating his fastball, it's so impressive. But it's just like, I think it's why they brought him in. They're like, we fixed Robbie Ray, and
for sure. For sure. Let's drop the cutter, see what happens, right? Okay, that works for a little bit. Just throw your fastball more, and hitters make adjustments. And now you got to go back to the drawing board and make adjustments of your own. And I think that maybe that is where the Blue Jays have been stuck a little bit with Kikuchi. The
I do
command
love
thing
this
to me
take,
is,
Julia. I do love this take. But you think this is an off-season project, probably, right? Like he's not getting right this season.
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
I would say that. And when you look at Robbie Ray and what the Blue Jays did with him, there is a real possibility that with some time and with the right amount of attention and consideration, things can be turned around. It's just not going to happen in late August or September or whenever it is. So.
Okay, let's go to another guy that's getting a lot of talk these days, which is Bo Bichette, who, in comparison to what he did in 2021, is having a fairly pedestrian season. You know, major league average offensive output, a little below major league defensive output. Do you think the Jays could be getting close to considering a position change with Bo? Like, do you think in the offseason it's possible that they take a look at shortstop free agents?
Yeah, I think that the Blue Jays would be wise to at least explore the market. Um, can't tell you for sure if they were exploring the market in the trade deadline
Mm-hmm.
this year, right? But Bo Bichette's name did float around, potential trades for Juan Soto or Pablo Lopez or guys like that. Like we sort of saw those "Who Says No" tweets, and Bo Bichette's name was more often than not involved.
Which was something we didn't see even out of Blue Jays Twitter, just
Mm-hmm.
the fandom side of things last year. Like it was kind of weird seeing his name being tossed around.
Yeah, I still believe in the athleticism. I still believe that he can be the sort of power hitter that can drive in runs, and the Blue Jays really value having him hit with runners on base because they realize the potential to sort of use the whole field, line drives all over the place, really move the needle with that very exotic and athletic swing, his speed, the fact that he is probably the hardest working guy on this roster. Like you get to the ballpark, he is there. He is working. He is fielding ground balls. He is taking batting practice. He doesn't take days off. And that is really impressive to see. And that is the sort of mentality that you want for your young guys in that clubhouse, the sort of thing that can inspire other guys as well. I would say with Bo, yeah, this season has sort of been a grind, but it's been a grind for everyone. If you look at Vladdy, he's also not having necessarily the season that he had last year, which is, a different comparison, of course, because that was just out of this world. But, right? But you look even at a guy like Marcus Semien, who's not here anymore, but he went to the Rangers, and guess what? His production has dwindled quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's there's a lot that goes into that. I think that just as easily, like if Bo, I'm sorry if you can hear my dog digging the couch. What is happening? I'm so sorry.
You're
Okay,
all
cool.
good. But Adam has a puppy that would love to chew the bone super loud on lots of our casts, so this is not a new thing.
I think she's just really worried about Bo Bichette's off season. Like she's just, I'm
We
worried
hit a
about the
nerve.
numbers.
Yeah. All right,
No,
Julia,
but,
we're gonna get to some. I know we've only got 10 more minutes with you. We really appreciate
No
your
worries,
time
guys.
here. So we are gonna get to listener questions before we get in trouble. But before, I'll ask you one last one here, because I know you mentioned Gabriel Moreno and getting to do a piece on him and how cool that was.
Yeah.
So do you have like a favorite player that you have worked with or done a story on? Just someone that was made time for you, gives a good interview, respectful, friendly. Like, who's some of your fave players that you've worked with?
Yeah, I would say honestly that the Blue Jays do a tremendous job with that. I think that everyone you talk to will be a good interview because they're just very, very polite, very kind, take the time to look you in the eye, which is really not something that you can say necessarily for every athlete in every sport. So very grateful for that. I would say certainly my number one was that Moreno interview.
Nice.
Just the amount of emotion that he showed and opening up about a very very hard upbringing growing up in Venezuela in a time of complete economic crisis and chaos, having to almost walk away entirely from the game. Can you imagine, like, he's the superstar, the potential one that almost wasn't. Like, we came very close to never know Moreno's name. So when you get to talk to a guy like that and hear that, it's life-changing for sure. I would say that.
And you were sent down to Buffalo to do that?
Yeah.
So you were face to face. Very, very cool. Yeah,
for sure. And, I think that speaking his language, speaking Spanish to him helped as well with the type of answer that I got to get from him. So that was really cool. And then in the Major League clubhouse for the Blue Jays, I always love talking to Teoscar Hernandez. He is such a nice guy, like legitimately very nice. He will give you good answers. He will be witty at points. You got to stay sharp because, it's very, he's very quick to sort of turn it around in a jokey way, and you have to keep the banter going type thing, which I appreciate. I think it's a lovely thing. I will say that one of the highlights was talking to Albert Pujols. And literally
very cool.
And he is a guy that's like, he is locked in. He is absolutely locked in. So I wanted to talk to him pregame, and he said, sure, we can talk, but you're going to have to walk with me, and I'm going to start my pregame stretch, and you're just going to have to deal with it. We're going to talk while I stretch. And I'm like, that's okay. Let's do this. So, that's also something that I'm certainly going to tell my kids. Hey, like, I interviewed this Hall of Famer.
That must have been so surreal, Julia.
It was. It was like, do you want me to mirror you type thing? Like it's an acting class. I don't know. That was an iconic one in my books.
Speaking of Albert Pujols, he has been white hot the last month. Is he getting to 700? Because this kid can.
Does he do it, Julia?
He can do it. I'm honestly on the lookout. 700 watch. I was watching when he, I think, got his 3,000th hit when he was still with the Angels, and that was so cool. And all things Albert Pujols, to be honest with you, I am here for. I think that he is first one of the most entertaining players in the game, and when you talk about work ethic and overcoming stuff to get to where he is, he's a guy that honestly deserves all the success he's gotten.
We're with you. He's the man.
Boom.
This latest hot streak, by the way, started in Game 2 of the series in Toronto. This is when he got his first home run of this, 12 home runs in 30 games kind of a thing. So I wonder if that...
Canadian standing ovation, yeah.
Well, we got the Canadian standing ovation. He hasn't been getting that all year, right? He hasn't been getting that everywhere he goes. So I don't know. Maybe he's just a little extra inspired right now.
Right on.
If he gets to 699, 698, should he come back and try again?
Wow. I mean, that's a big decision, isn't it? Because I don't know, pull a Tom Brady, say you're going to retire, and then
just come back in 3 weeks.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. Or he can literally hit the 700th and be like, now I can rest.
Yeah. He's earned it. He's earned some rest. All right. Can we get to listener questions before we let you go?
Absolutely. Okay.
First one comes in from... Sorry, I got a fly bugging me here. First one comes in from Blue Jays Ashley 97. Says, what would be your best advice for a young girl pursuing a career in sports journalism?
Quite simply, keep at it. Okay. I think that you're going to be met with skepticism. I hope not, but in my experience, I was certainly met with skepticism. I have had people of a certain gender and of a certain age and of a certain ethnicity try to explain the game to me, which I do this for a living. You really don't have to. Your blood will boil at those points. Mine certainly did. I wanted to tell him off instead of being like, yeah, don't worry, I do this for a living. It's the self-control that's necessary in times like that. Trust yourself. Trust that you know what you're doing. It's so easy to second guess yourself and be met with a little bit of self-doubt because other people doubt you. Let me tell you right now, just the fact that you took the time to actually ask that question means that you're already light years ahead of everyone else. So work hard, keep at it. And if anyone is an asshole to you, and I'm sorry, but sometimes you have to use your French. You have to. Know that it says a lot more about them than it does you.
Yeah.
And just keep going.
Love it.
Awesome. Okay, next one comes in from Darren. Says, have you always been a Blue Jays fan, or is covering the Jays more of a assignment, so to speak?
Yeah, I'm not a Blue Jays fan. I'm not from Toronto, right? I didn't grow up here. I grew up in Brazil, actually. And when I moved to Toronto to pursue a baseball career, I realized that I would probably end up covering the Blue Jays. So certainly been following the Blue Jays for a long time as a fan of the game and as someone who aspired to come to the city. That said, what the Blue Jays are doing right now, the team that they have put together, it's a very easy team to sort of root for, to hope that they succeed. I'm not saying that I'm not going to be a cheerleader. That's not my job. But it is a very exciting time to be in that press box and to be in that clubhouse. So to answer your question, no, I'm not a Blue Jays fan, but I very much enjoy covering the team.
Okay,
who was your team?
Good.
Did you have a team?
Oh, you want to know my team?
Yeah.
Fine, I'll tell you. I have for the longest time been a Los Angeles Angels fan, which
thank goodness. I love
well,
it.
this is not the Yankees. We're fine.
Yeah, no, that's what I was
Yeah.
like. Please tell me it wasn't the Yankees.
This is the Yankees. We can't even air this episode.
But at the same time, when you actually get a job in the industry and you start working for Major League Baseball, everyone has their preferences, but you also need to know to sort of put those aside and understand that this is your job. You can't be biased. You can't be partial. You have to cover the team. And it'll be an interesting experience for me, to be honest with you. I will be covering the Angels when they come to Toronto on the weekend.
Cool.
And I'm super excited to watch Shohei Ohtani pitch and cover that and report on that. It's going to be a lot of fun. At the same time, if they suck, I'm going to shred them because that's my job, right?
Boy, Ohtani would sure be
so cool.
Ohtani would sure be a nice left-handed bat on this Blue Jays team.
Well.
Maybe after that team gets sold, we'll see what happens. All right. 2 more questions we'll get to quickly here. So this one comes in from Diana. Says, what is the next target for you in your career path, and what steps are you taking to make that happen?
Dang. Where do I see myself in 5 years?
Right?
It's the next step would certainly be to take on a full-time beat job, focus on one team, as much fun as I've had and will continue to have covering multiple teams in the season. I think that one of the beautiful things about baseball is that you actually get to build very, very strong relationships with the people around you when you're following a team and when you're covering a team. It's a very long season, right? So I would love to make that happen. As for what steps I'm putting into place, I mean, I think that something like this, right? Just taking the time to talk to people and to hear what you guys have to say, to learn from you constantly. I think I'm just going to keep doing my job. I'm just going to keep vying for, writing the best stories that I can, really finding the most compelling, most interesting stories. And hopefully I'll get to do that for a long time.
Very cool. All right, last one now comes in from Gregory. Says, and we kind of touched on Bo Bichette earlier, but he says, is it just me or is Bo Bichette miserable lately? Haven't seen him having fun like he used to. Do you think he leaves the Jays in free agency? Do you think he signs an extension, or is he going to get traded?
Boy, Gregory really piling on the questions in one there, eh?
Really getting his money's worth. So
Yeah, no, I'll do my best to get to all the points. If I
Sure.
miss anything, you let me know. But
You bet.
Bo Bichette, I believe, has matured a whole lot this season. And that was something that I kind of noticed right away when we spoke to him prior to opening day, just the maturity in his voice, the way that he carried himself. I think that he learned a lot from Marcus Semien, and he's really been sort of embodying that this year. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's not having fun. It just means that he feels the responsibility a little bit differently, and that may come across in the way that he, in his demeanor, let's say, when he's on the field. And
Is that a Marcus Semien influence?
it may be, right? We know how much they shared, and how important Semien was for Bichette, and we also know that Marcus Semien was the epitome of work ethic and focus when it came to being on the field and really preparing as best he could. So it may very well be a Marcus Semien influence on Bo Bichette. I don't think that necessarily means that he's not having fun. I just think that he understands the weight of the moment, the gravity of the moment, and how much the Blue Jays are expected to accomplish. When it comes to signing an extension or walking or trading him, I don't see him necessarily as a priority for the Blue Jays when it comes to signing extensions. I think that, you're talking about him and you're talking about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Eventually, you're going to have this conversation about Alek Manoah. Those guys probably take priority over Bo Bichette, and what that means for his long-term future with the club is a little bit up in the air. Ross Atkins, Blue Jays GM, obviously says that the idea is to keep this core together for a long time, and they have every intention to keep every one of them and to extend every one of them. And it would be pretty awesome if they could do it. I think that would be the best case scenario. But when you're talking about financial straps and decisions, it's hard for me to say that Bichette will be atop the list of priorities for the Jays.
Fair enough. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah,
Guys,
Julia, thank you so
pleasure.
much.
This
was
great.
Awesome. We really enjoyed this. Hopefully we can have you back sometime. All the best with the rest of the season. And take care.
Thank you very much, guys.